Oh boy, we're counting up.
Okay, in theory, I should be live right now on the stream and in Discord. Seems like I am looking at the overlay. So,
You
welcome
are.
everyone to our town hall that we're having in the September of the year 2019. The Glare is just running late, but we're gonna start without him because he'll be here in 2 minutes. Doesn't matter. But anyways, we have gathered you all here today to talk about this thing right here on the website, NASA 2020 information. Stuff's to be announced. We're going to talk about it. It's not set in stone, but we have some information about more than likely where the event is going to take place. And I'm going to let those crazy guys talk right now. I feel that he needs to talk.
Wait, what? I was supposed to have this info ready?
No, you weren't. It's just great to see you struggle.
God damn it. Well, we're slowly closing in on a location. We've been looking at a couple of places, and we've pretty much narrowed it down to one location. We've checked it out a couple times. Shoutouts to Talaris for helping us with that. Um, at this point, we're trying to basically get a contract drawn up and making sure that everything's good. And if so, we're going to lock it down while someone else is getting up the hotel information to tell all of you about.
I have it. I just wanted to see how you'd
Awesome.
handle that
Thank you.
situation. You did
Okay, I
admirably.
handled it 100% beautifully.
Yes. So the hotel that we're actually looking into, this is our option number one. It is in the location of, I don't know, I was gonna say beautiful, but I actually don't know if it's beautiful. It's in Cleveland, Ohio. About a 4-hour drive from Niagara. And there's a hotel, the 4 Points by Sheraton Cleveland Airport. So those three last words should be like amazing for one of the biggest complaints that people had during our 2019 end of event kind of like discussion town hall. Because the biggest thing was like people were like, well, it's far from an airport. Well, now we have one that literally says it's near an airport and they have a shuttle built in. Ideally, this is the one that we're gonna go to. Got like pictures here and stuff. Roll through. Wow, there's only 3 pictures. Amazing. But in either case, yeah, we've looked into it. Ideally, we'll be here. We have another backup that's also in Cleveland as well. And obviously, if for whatever reason those two don't pan out, we have our options in Canada again. But realistically, we are looking on having the event in Cleveland. Are still trying to figure out how that's going to work from a technical perspective because going over the border with a bunch of professional AV equipment is something you don't really get to do just because you feel like it. So,
Yeah, NASA's coming back to the United States, boys.
Truly North American.
yay. So yeah, with going to states, there's a couple things to take note. Those big ass nice projector fast fold screens that we had for 2019, not gonna be a thing. Those things are huge and they take up more than a whole, like they would take up a whole minivan, and it's just not gonna happen. I have my own projector. I have a very nice commercial grade projector, but if I'll be taking that over the border is to be determined. Like video game consoles, my the streaming desktop Artemis, and a bunch of other stuff that's relatively small and easily go over. But the actual things like the big mixer, the big speakers, things like that, that's not gonna go over the border. So we'll probably have to look into rental costs. So that's gonna have to be a part of the budget this year, is some hard rental costs, because it's gonna be unavoidable pretty much unless somebody has a bunch of free gear they want to just provide to us in Cleveland. So
Speaking of costs, the due to the fact even though it's near an airport and like we kind of talked about the hotel a little bit, like one big benefit that it has is this hotel does have a shuttle from the airport, so people who are flying in will really enjoy that. One other thing is that the cost of this hotel is still very reasonable. So we're not looking at our costs, doubling or tripling like we were worried about. This location was really good in that respects. I don't remember exactly how much it was looking to cost, and we're still getting the contract drawn up, but it's definitely not, a severe increase or anything. There will probably be, I'm predicting probably a little bit of an increase. I see Nagliera, you're here now, so that's probably correct. Just once you factor in rental costs and stuff.
Yeah, this the one we had for like this year for NASA 2019 was I think 950 Canadian, not including taxes per day. The ones we have in Ohio that we were looking at are either 450 or 500 USD per day, which is a couple hundred less. I'm not too familiar with the exchange rate, but it's like cheaper than the much cheaper than like in Niagara, which is to be expected, but still near airports and shit.
Yeah, but then when we factor in some other costs that will probably increase from that, it's so it seems like we'll come about equal, maybe a tiny bit more expensive, but currently if everything kind of sticks as we do, we don't really expect our costs to rise significantly.
Yeah, I personally I would think it would be the same ticket price, but it's not a guarantee.
Yeah, we've still got like until that contract's signed, we can't give any hard info.
yeah, the nice part about the event being here is that it's not, as far as I understand it, Cleveland is not a tourist trap for the world. So pricing is obviously a lot less in comparison for the venue. But
Yeah, you want to pull up the Google map?
yeah, I got that tab right here. That's 4 Point Sheraton. Oh look, there's a 7-Eleven like across the street with a Subway, and there's a Hub Bar and Grill. And zoom out, there's like stuff. More my American geography shit.
There's a Denny's just to the south there. Like if you zoomed in and down a little, there was a Denny's.
Oh yeah, I see it right here. Denny's right there if you go a couple blocks by car. Denny's are 24/7, aren't they?
Or just walk. They should be.
Not all of them, I don't think. This one is.
If you click on it, it'll tell you.
Yeah, part of the reason I sent a request to this hotel was because it had a 24/7 Denny's.
Yeah, so that's good.
Yeah.
And then Cedar
It
Point
popped
is
up for a little bit.
an hour away, I think.
But the international hotel is kind of like, yeah, it's like right there. It's not that far away. That's
Yeah,
where
right
you're
there.
ideally going to want to fly into.
Well, Cleveland Hopkins International Airport's right there, unless there's a different international airport.
No, I think that's the one.
That's the one.
So there it is. There's a shuttle from there to the 4 Points by Sheraton Cleveland Airport. So
yeah, the other hotel that has a decent price for the conference room doesn't have an airport shuttle. So like the 4 Point Sheraton is the one I want to sign with. We're just still like talking to them about the contract. But ideally, ideally it'll be the 4 Points. But we got fallback options if it doesn't work.
And I was looking into it. There are guitar centers in and around Cleveland, so we'll more than likely be able to rent almost or all of the audio equipment that will be required. So, like I was mentioning earlier, the speakers, the mixers, potential extra microphones and stuff like that. It seems like we'll be able to rent all of that. I don't know what the costs will be. That's something I need to mail Guitar Center and be like, hey, what equipment do you have available and what costs are we looking at here for the week? The video portion is going to be a lot harder to deal with because I don't know if Guitar Center rents projectors. We're potentially looking at buying projector screens off Amazon. We're looking into HDMI solutions for the video game consoles. The Rad 2X cables are 40 British pounds each, and those do the RGB outputs from the consoles. So for practice, if people don't have CRTs, but we can somehow get like LCD monitors, that's a thing. Capture wise, I'm looking into getting slimmer hardware, but if people have hardware, bring it up. Let us know what you have, because that would mean a lot of help if we know what you have and you plan on bringing it, and then we can kind of plan around it. Like, hey, we don't need to really look into buying an extra this or spare that, or even just main video product here and there, because we'll know that
Yeah, I
somebody will
remember
be
the
bringing
first
it.
NASA. It was like entirely crowdsourced, which is part of the reason it was a shit show at the start.
But that's something we
True.
might just have to do again, because there's only so much that like me and those crazy guys can bring from Canada into Cleveland.
Yeah, Gander, I think that's something that we definitely are going to want to do much more this year. We kind of said like we should do it last year, but didn't quite need as much. I think when it comes down to like this year, I think we're going to need to do a full figure out of what we want and then find somewhere where we can post just a full list. And even if we get like a place where people can say like, yes, for sure, I'm bringing at least this. Yeah, like pretty much everything. We'll try and see if we can have a full list and allow people to say, yes, I'm bringing this thing. So that way we can know in our head that like, okay, somebody's definitely covering this. So that way we kind of are more prepared in that respect.
Yeah, the big thing we need to find a solution for is that if we don't have a big ass projector screen, it kind of hampers everyone watching the runs in the room, which doesn't make it as fun. So, in years past, we've been able to use projectors from Aries work and have two of them, but this year we're probably going to look at one. And yeah, we're just looking at what are the best solutions for that. If anyone happens to have a big projector that they would want to lend us for the week or whatever, then that's great. But otherwise, we have to like rent something or buy something off Amazon and then return it, or I don't know, something.
Oh, and Gander and Laz bring up a good point. It's something that we would have in a like Google Docs that weren't really like public of like the hardware we want, but I think it would be a good idea to have a straight up wish list rather than like a pre NASA, which is more effort than it's kind of.
I mean,
Yeah, true.
with pre-NASA, it's been kind of. I don't know if we'll do a pre-NASA again. I would like to do another speed keynote, even if it doesn't have a fundraising portion to it. Mainly because I thought it was a cool idea, and especially now that I own small BVM or PVM, sorry, be maybe a bit better quality this time around with the camera pointed to the TV. So, I'm willing to do other small events. Don't know if we'll necessarily have the fundraising component to them. But with this 2020 event as well, we are looking into a potential charity component. Don't know what capacity that's going to be, but we are in the talks with charity people to see how this charity component would.
Yeah, we have to wait until after TwitchCon to really have a serious conversation about it. But we've talked to Twitch about doing it, and we just need to talk with. We're looking at Save the Children as a because they're pretty familiar with stuff, and morale's pretty well known. So we'll see how that works out. Otherwise, if folks have suggestions and things like that, we're always open.
With that as well, I personally want to start up a winter event. I don't know how much interest there would be, quote unquote, but I feel if we're going to be changing up a lot of things for this 2020 event or any event in general, having a smaller scale winter event to kind of try things out, see what works, what doesn't work, would be very beneficial, and it would probably happen in December. I don't know when, but we'll probably do maybe a poll on the newsletter that will come out after this, see how much interest there is. The main thing that people brought up when we're doing our big town hall right after the event was that people don't want the charity component to overshadow the main event. And that's one of the things that we'll obviously need to strike a balance with. And if we have this winter event, I feel we will be a lot closer to that balance than if we just went straight in during the main event.
And I guess while we're talking about others, speaking of marathons, we're also looking at doing another Halloween marathon this year. The Halloween marathon, I'm trying to remember exactly what HTN is. It Halloween thriller,
Horror thriller
Monster
monster
Marathon.
marathon.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. Okay, yeah, we're hosting that again this year. We're going to probably open
You
submissions
forgot
for
the
that.
tagline.
What was the tagline?
Very scary.
Yeah.
Okay, of course. How could I forget that? We're looking at starting that up again this year. It'll be happening soon.
Soon.
I assume we're probably going to open within the next week or so submissions. The date we have set up for that is October 26th, 27th. So that's the Saturday, Sunday at the end of the month.
Yeah, last year we
So-
didn't have one because none of us were really available, and we tried the reruns. It kind of worked, kind of didn't. Twitch's rebroadcast feature or whatever just sucks. Nobody was kind of watching it. We, as a channel, had more views if I was just having OBS open, recording VLC, playing back the video files in comparison to Twitch's native rebroadcast feature. So take that information and do with it what you will, but we kind of figured that part out too late. But this year we actually are available, so we're going to be attempting another Halloween event. So let your friends know.
Yeah, we'll open it sometime this week. Submissions probably keep it open for a week or so, a week or two, and then close it, and then quickly come up with a schedule. Yeah, best of shows. Yeah, the biggest issue why we couldn't do something like that is just mainly because of the availability. We didn't really have anyone to take the time to put together all that content and then host it. So that was, the issue we ran into, and we hoped we could just at least get something on the channel, but that didn't, it worked okay.
It worked okay. Yep.
So at this point, I think that's everything we wanted to announce and talk about. So if folks have any questions in chat at this time, because otherwise, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, we'll give a minute or two, see if anyone has anything they want to say. I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
We're almost done putting all the VODs on the YouTube.
Yeah, VOD should be done for. Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Gander. So yeah, for the VODs, should have the last ones up on Thursday. Soon after that, we're going to jump to some of the other marathons that we don't have up on our YouTube channel, which will be most likely ARPG, ME, and I think Uncharted Thon is also another one we're going to put up on our channel, but that might be until after the Halloween stuff. It depends on how much we have.
Yeah, so it is your question about charity accountability and sort of like checking back in with charities that we raise money for to see that they've actually followed through on sort of what their mission statement is.
Yeah, so for people who will be rewatching this at a later date, Gander was asking, the biggest gripe about charities I see online is people complaining about money donated not going to the purpose of charity. It may be good to investigate how a charity spends / uses the money donated to them when choosing. So it's definitely something
So I
that was
actually
brought
just
up.
pulled this up.
Oh,
You can, because the thing we're looking at is Save the Children.
do you have a
So I'm
link so I
just
can pull it
decided.
up?
Yeah, well, I just pulled it up. You can look if you want. There's a website called Charity Navigator that kind of breaks it down a little. They
Do
have
it
their
up.
financial performance metrics. They have it listed here that 87.3% of the charity's expenses get spent on the programs and services it delivers. So, how that number compares to what your stuff goes to. There's also some other stats here. So I just literally pulled this right up. So I don't know if you have an idea on the numbers you kind of expect to see when a group chooses a charity, if this kind of hits the, numbers that you enjoy seeing. But Save the Children is the one we're currently looking at right now, because we've kind of heard they've been good in the past, and we've worked other marathons. Some of us have been
that's what
involved
they
with
use
work on.
for ESA mostly. And since NASA is
Well, they
pretty much
used
just
to,
a
I think.
rip off of ESA, I figured might as well use the
It's down
same
a
shit.
little lower.
Yeah,
Dan.
ESA doesn't do Save the Children anymore. They've switched to a Swedish autism charity.
Oh, right, shit.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we'll have to do that eventually, but
Yeah, we're
this
gonna
one
be
really,
For a couple of years, they were for Save the Children. To be fair,
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
only recently that they switched. So
Another thing as well to kind of help, because even though when somebody can pull up, for example, his charity navigator information and be like, yeah, so clearly that's the score. One of the things that I kind of have in my brain from a technical producer standpoint of the event is looking at how other charity events do. I can't English right now. Holy crap. How other charity events showcase what the money is actually going towards. The obvious analogs are PBS marathons that happen when they would fundraise for a certain cause. And another example is probably that unless you're Polish, you don't know what it is there's a charity where it's like the big orchestra of blah 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 blah, and they just raise money for hospital equipment.
well, a better example is RPG Limit Break, where they share about mental health and things like
Right. But with that having intermissions where potentially people show like the equipment that the money would potentially go over or things like that. Because one of the things that probably happens with every uh speedrun marathon that just plays ads for their charity is people drown it out. They will always drown it out if it's the exact same clip because there's only so many times you can watch the same clip within the time span of a week. You drown it out just like any other ad. So if we had a more personable or unique way to continue to showcase that information in different ways to keep interest going, that would be ideal to me personally. But we'll see how it actually goes because now that there's a hosting portion, there's now a whole new technical portion to the event that has to be considered and worked on. So
yeah, it's still something we're looking at. Like I said, we're in conversation with. It's not something as definite as our hotel location is even. So
Yeah, and definitely if this is something we implement, it's something we're going to want to implement right. Like if we think, we're talking into it and it's looking like things won't really work with it, we're better off to just drop it than, try and shove it in last minute. But it's something that people have kind of showed interest in. And if we can get it to work out, it's definitely something like the charity component is definitely something we're going to look into. But, it's not something we're saying, even if it's barely working out, we're going to make sure it's in there. It's more like if everything looks good and we're happy with it all and can get it working with our kind of integration, then it's something we're looking to put in. And if we can test it during some sort of winter event that we're potentially looking into, then that's even better.
and with the winter event, it doesn't even we might not even potentially have the same charity during the winter event. Like everything's up in the air. It's just there's interest for a winter event, and we can get something going, and there's some charity component that we can put in there that makes logical sense to everybody involved. Then that's what we'll do. And if we don't, well, we won't. It's just one of those things. I will say that if a winter event does happen, though, it will probably happen in Niagara, because that just makes the most amount of sense to have things close by to me and those crazy guys anyways. Well, relatively speaking for him. I'm not going to drive all the way to Cleveland to do some event that potentially won't work out just to test stuff.
Yeah. So do we have anyone else who has any other things they want to ask about? We'll just wait a couple seconds.
But yeah, in the meantime, feel free to join our newsletter. It's at nasamarathon.com/newsletter, I believe. We also have a forum that we don't really, but it's there. You can sign up for it. I'll post the newsletter in the forum as well. So if you don't want to sign up for it, you can still read it there.
Yeah, yeah, you can subscribe to that newsletter right there. And yes, the Halloween event is online only. Most of our events, pretty much the only current in-person event we have is the main event that we have in June and potentially this winter event. But other than that, any other content we have on this channel is all online because it makes much more sense and is much easier to host. But yeah, if you want to submit a run, just keep an eye out. If you're not on our, the newsletter or our Discord or just even having the website up, I'm predicting sometime next week, almost definitely by Wednesday night. Definitely no later than that. We'll have the info up and the runs ready to be submitted. If you have anything horror, even better. But it's not like we restrict to only horror runs that are allowed. At least that's my
If
knowledge.
you can somehow create a reason as to why the game is scary, it will get in.
Yeah,
I think I ran Barney's hide and seek game for a horror thing once, talking about how it's like I can't hug all these animals, like they're just it's so miserable.
Yeah,
It's
dude,
like
that's
I have
really
to live
scary.
with this.
Like, just think of the
Very
psychological
unsettling.
trauma.
Because I feel like a game that's scary, if it's offset by a game where you're just like, it's not the game itself isn't scary, but you're just doing some comedy dialogue about how spooky it is. It's good contrast.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, thanks for watching, everybody.
I'm going to play an ad. If you're still watching, please feel free to stick around and actually let the whole ad play, because that's how we do shit. Smash that subscribe button. Get the Gloria's face emote, because who doesn't want that?
Oh, yeah.
There's also a Nando one, which is pretty legit. So, thanks for watching.
Goodbye.